All right, well, that would still at least herald higher prices still to come. We just don't know how much longer and how much higher, Dan. And I'm just looking at how you crunch the numbers. If the market's worried about this, that's a funny way of seeing it. We ended the month of October with all the averages at record highs. They all appreciated at least 4, 5, 6, 7%. They're all running ahead at a double-digit pace year to date. So I don't think they seem too rattled. Are you?
I am not rattled as far as how the market is reacting, Neil, because I have said that the market is not going to have a major correction until something happens with interest rates. Now, we may be forced into that situation depending on whether we start to end up in a recessionary period and with inflation just out of control. And let me say this, Neil, I was one of the people early on that said Jay Powell was wrong in saying this was going to be transitory. And the reason I said that was because I did not see policy that was going to change. For example, we are now moving towards vaccine mandates. Now, some people will get the vaccination because of that, but there are a lot of people who are going to choose not to work as a result. And when that happens, we are going to have an even bigger problem with less labor when we have a shortage.
Dan, my issue with this is not to play games with the numbers here, but to point out something. Say what you will of the rich, when the top 1% are paying close to 40% of the taxes, the top 5% are paying close to 60% of the taxes, and you still have an unusual situation in this country where half aren't paying any federal income taxes. Now, that might be a holdover from the pandemic, but in the 1950s, the most we saw that get to was around 20% not paying. Not everyone is, forget paying a fair share, not any share. So I always think like sort of targeting the wealthy, whatever you think of them, sometimes isn't very fair at all. What do you think?
I think that the talking points...
No, you have to whisper your response, Dan. You must whisper. Kidding.
The talking points of the Democrats are all wrong. So, Neil, what's happening here is they are trying to vilify people who are successful by saying they don't want to pay more and it's at your expense. But you bring up a great point. No one is saying, you know what? Part of the problem here, besides the government spends way too much because they get more of their fair share of tax collected, is that half the people in this country pay no income tax. Why should you have 5% of the people paying 60%, half paying nothing? The math is all out of whack. It's just politics here to vilify a certain group of people so that people jump on board. Bottom line, Neil, and you're pointing it out, the government spends way too much, far beyond what they collect.
Dan, here I'd like to harken back to your accountant training. Wharton School has already crunched the numbers that they had available to them to conclude that even with the tax hikes being envisioned, they come up $500 billion short of paying for this. So this idea that it's not going to add a penny to the deficit or to the debt is at face value wrong. And they've got to correct that, or do they just slough it off?
Well, the comment is completely disingenuous to say that it's paid for or that it's free or it doesn't have any cost. Again, all that is trying to garner votes. And you know what I think is going to happen here, Neil, if all these tax increases are going to go through? And this is what I see all the time in our accounting practices. We're doing tax strategies. The federal tax going up, let's say for individuals hitting 50%, and you're kind of trapped in that. Well, what's going to happen is people are going to migrate because now those state income taxes become really, really important. Before you were talking to Jack Ciattarelli for governor in New Jersey, he's talking about how New Jersey's taxes are the highest in the country. Well, why not just
Money can move.
From New
Money
Jersey?
can move. It can move. You're right. Guys, I'm jumping on you, being very rude here, but I want to thank you both very much.